Hey everyone, welcome to week 8 of 20 for 20. This last few weeks of research for this topic has really done me in. I have been just overwhelmed by the statistics I'm reading. So according to Buzz and Shackelford, whoever these guys are, more than 60% of marriages face infidelity. More than 60% report that either they've cheated or their spouse has cheated in the lifetime of their marriage. That's humongous, guys, huge. And we all know that more than 50% of marriages end in divorce. Those alone are just huge statistics that are, they're mind-blowing and crippling. But there's something I think we can do about it. And I keep going back to the Lord. And I'm like, Lord, help me. Help me teach from your word on what we can do to guard our marriages. And I think 2 Samuel keeps coming to mind for a really specific reason. It's this story that's so scandalous, straight out of Hollywood, right up our alley, right? We're visual people. And I think we could all envision this happening. And it's David and Bathsheba. Well, David, in verse 1, isn't where he's supposed to be. It says, in the springtime, all kings and their men go off to battle. Well, David's not at battle. Maybe he has mono. He had a lot of wives. Maybe that's the case. But for whatever reason, he chose to not be at battle. And he's out maybe drinking a mojito on his patio, but he's overlooking, and he has a direct bird's eye view into this smoking hot lady's courtyard. She's out taking a bath, so she's butt naked. And he doesn't just look, he keeps looking. He doesn't look away or go in and like, I'm gonna go catch the game. This is not a situation I should be in. No, instead he inquires. He sends a messenger to go find out about her. And the messenger even questions David and says, that's Bathsheba, Uriah the Hittite's, that's his wife. And he sends for her, invites her over maybe for a nice steak dinner. They sit down. She, this part's not in the story, but can you imagine? They were probably talking about their day, and she's like, my pipes broke. I have so much laundry. I'm so lonely without Uriah here. And goes on. And he's comforting her, and emotionally they start to connect. Well, the next thing you know, they sleep together. And several weeks later, she finds out she's pregnant. This is devastating. Well, David tries to cover his tracks because he doesn't want to be found out, right? We don't like to be found out in the midst of our sin, so we cover it up. Well, he sends for Uriah. Uriah doesn't take the bait. He doesn't come home and sleep with his wife. He actually sleeps on the porch. And that enrages David. So when he yielded to his temptation, his lust ultimately gave way to death. And he had Uriah put on the battlefield, on the front lines, and the collateral damage is huge, right? Just like in a lot of these cases of infidelity, it never stops with just our marriage, right? Everybody's affected by it. Well, the collateral damage is huge. All of Uriah's men are killed in battle. So a lot of women got the notice that their husbands weren't going to be coming home. That's huge. That's devastating. Well, what are the make a difference moments that we can learn from this story? What can we learn for our own marriages? Well, I believe it's this. A, you and I are not immune to an affair. It could happen to you, and it could happen to me. There are things we can do to protect our marriages, but we're not immune to it. So we must be diligent, ruthless, and shrewd about protecting our marriages. That's what we get to do. We can't control what our spouse is going to do, but we can control our own actions. And maybe when the Bathsheba runs past you, you turn and you look away. You don't click. You don't take click on the link and inquire more, or go on Match.com and try to find, hey, just what's out there. I'm just checking my options. No, we don't do those things. The next thing we do is we recognize that if we don't acknowledge our ability to cheat, we also refuse to put in boundaries that hedge us in and protect us. If you look around, I'm surrounded by big, tall fences. Those offer my family boundaries and guidelines of where they're allowed to play and when they're not allowed to play. And I believe we need these in marriages. We need to know what's okay and what's not okay. And the make a difference moment for this week is to personally check your heart. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, as my kids would say. But we need to really recognize our own weakness and our own vulnerabilities. Next couple weeks, we're going to really dive into what we do as a couple. What are some really tangible things we could do as a couple to say, no, we're not letting divorce consume our marriage, and we're not going to let infidelity enter. You know, here's another statistic that was mind-blowing, is less than 30% of marriages survive an affair. That's huge. Here's the hope in that. I believe it could be much higher, because where repentance is present, hope is possible. Repentance means you're going to run like hell in the opposite direction, and you're no longer going to be consumed by that sin of what you've been doing. You know, for some of us, it may mean that we're not allowed to even get on the internet at all when our spouse isn't present. We have to put in like parental controls for ourselves and have self-control. We cannot be scrolling in the late hours of the night. There's so many things that we can check. Here's the other mind-blowing statistic. More than 40% of affairs start in the workplace. So that gives us great pause to realize that we spend a lot of time at work, and we need to guard those relationships and not let people in the way we do sometimes, right? We need to be fierce defenders of our marriages, including with the people we work with, including with the people we sit on the baseball field with, all those things. You don't just open your life to emotionally and physically be vulnerable with anybody other than your spouse. You guys, my kids often will say to me, Mom, you are so extra. You guys, in marriage, we need to be so extra, so over the top that people might even think we're crazy and we're weird. But be crazy and weird about your spouse and do things that are so extra and over the top to love, and love your spouse well and love them fiercely. You guys, this next week, make a difference in your own marriage by examining your own actions, your own behavior, and your own patterns of doing things that may be setting you up in the future for allowing other people into your marriage. Have a great week.